My name is Tessa Smucker, and a few years back, right out of college, I was just struggling with this sense of community. There were definitely people that I was vulnerable with. I've always had amazing friends, amazing family, but I think it was the people that I wasn't necessarily doing life with. So the day-to-day people that are making sure I'm okay or kind of walking through life with, I didn't have those people. I think I was not letting people in because it was more my personality. My whole life I had sort of created this persona, and not that it wasn't an accurate persona, it was just I was most comfortable in being seen as very put together and being seen as successful, and I was just so focused on my career and my success and trying to kind of like do the next step that I sort of got lost in that. And there was photographer Tessa, but then there was Tessa, and I remember feeling that tension of kind of zoning into work mode, but then not being able to zone out. And because I was so busy, it was just this continual, almost adrenaline that I had to kind of keep going. And I don't think I was realizing how much that focus of my career and that focus of work was taking away from me just being able to just be and to be authentic and to kind of recognize what putting in those hours and what putting in that focus on my career was doing kind of to my personal life. I remember just being like, I'm not okay, just sort of broken and tired and kind of at my very end. And it happened that the next morning or the next evening, we had a worship night, and my mom, knowing how involved I was at Epic and just being like, who here actually knows you? Like, who here knows that like you're not okay right now? Like, who can you go to and be like, hey, can you pray with me? Or can you help walk me through kind of these emotions that I'm having? And it wasn't that there weren't people that were willing, it was more me not letting myself get to that point and not being good at being vulnerable. I remember that question, who here knows you, even though I had been around for 6-7 years, just like hitting me at my core. And because I was sort of broken that weekend, I remember it's actually a journal entry in 2016 where I just pretty much was like, God, like I need people, I need community, I need your strength to be able to help me to be vulnerable and help me to let people in. I think God really knows when we need him, when we're sort of stripped down, when we're at the point that we're just asking for help and he can show up. And I think before with prayer, I've used it, as the sort of, what can it get me? Or this is what I should be doing. And I've learned a lot in the last couple of years that just simple prayers out of a pure heart, I guess, and asking God to sort of show up is much better than feeling this need to check all the boxes or say the right things. And God knows our heart. He knows our heart more than anybody else, and he created us. And I think just understanding that God just wants our heart, and that's super complex, but also super, super simple. And that was probably the first time that I can tangibly remember kind of asking God for something out of desperation, and then him so tangibly showing up. And not that he hadn't before, but I was in a season that I could see it and my eyes were open to sort of needing that answer. Now I have this community that points me to Jesus, but in unique ways, and they don't let me settle. They are my biggest cheerleaders, and they're just people that I do life with. And being with my people on a Sunday and just watching church and being in our pajamas, sipping the coffee, it's just a recharge that I wasn't necessarily getting on Sundays that I'm serving and there's lots of to-dos and there's people around. And not that that's bad, it just sort of strips it down to what church is intended to be. It's just a really cool juxtaposition of what can happen when you let people know you and you let people in, and choosing those select few of people and not letting them down, and choosing to show up and choosing to challenge one another and choosing ultimately to be vulnerable. And that's scary, and letting people in. But I think the byproduct of having people that know you is just worth that.